Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by MiloTree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Blogger Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Jillian Leslie. I'm founder with my husband of Catch My Party and the MiloTree pop-up app. I'm a business coach and a business translator. I take what's working in blogging and online business, break it down, share it, so you can use these tips yourself, grow your business, and make more money. Before I get started, I want to ask if you would do me a solid. By the way, I've always wanted to say that, so thank you. If you are enjoying the podcast and getting real value out of it, would you head to iTunes and give the podcast 5 stars and write a very quick review? This way, more people will find it, it will continue to grow, and I can continue to bring you awesome guests. Like today, I've got my dear friend Alisa Meredith back on the show. For those of you who don't know her, she is one of the marketing brains at Tailwind. She is a Pinterest expert, and I love when she comes on the show to share what is happening on Pinterest now. As we all know, Pinterest is constantly changing, so you're going to really want to listen to this episode. Without further delay, here is my interview with Alisa Meredith. Alisa, welcome back to the show.
Jillian, I'm so happy to be here.
I was just sharing, you are my most popular guest in that this is your 5th appearance on the show.
That's crazy. And I've loved every minute of every one of those, Jillian.
And what I love is we get to connect every time because we are also good friends. So it's always nice to be able to chat with you and then pick your brain and hear all of the new information. Like, it's just a win-win.
Well, and next time I think we need to book for 2 hours because let's be honest, we need it.
We need it. We need it. We need it. So I want you, what I'm excited about having you back on the show is you always give me the most cutting edge information on Pinterest. And so if I were to say to you, what is working now on Pinterest, what would your answer be?
Oh, well, I don't know how you're going to feel about this answer. But I guess when you ask what is working well, just initial thought, it's story pins.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you were to explain more about story pins.
If I were.
Yes, if you were.
If I were. So what we did at Tailwind recently, we have a data guy, which is like, it's the best present you could ever give a marketer is a data person. So we've been putting him to work. And one of the things that he looked at for us were, how many 20 million pins that were saved in February and March of this year to see like what are Tailwind members pinning, especially what are people who are paying for Tailwind pinning. So we know that these are marketers who are investing in their marketing, right? So what's their activity look like and how's it working out for them? Well, 95% of what they're sharing is static images. 4% of what they're sharing are video pins, and a little teeny 1% would be story pins.
Got it.
Now, when we looked at like engagement on those, and when we talk about engagement in these studies, we're just looking at saves. So when somebody repins your pin, okay, we found that video pins got 8 times more repins than static image pins, and video story pins got 41 times more saves than static image pins.
So
right?
What does that say to you? That people are now coming to Pinterest for video, or that Pinterest is showing video and story more? Like, how do you read that?
Yeah, so I think both are going on there. So you asked, like, is it people are coming to Pinterest for video more? That is definitely one of the things that's going on. So searches on Pinterest that include the word video have increased by, I think it's 28% year over year. So people are actually typing in hair tip videos, right? Like looking for video content specifically. The thing with story pins, well, we were talking about this earlier, and Pinterest is all in on story pins because their direction for 2021 is to not just connect people with ideas, but connect people with creators of those ideas. So to get some kind of excuse me, kind of interaction happening on the platform and to showcase idea creators. So their way to do that is with story pins. And the idea of a story pin is that all of the information needed to take this action should be happening in the story pin, which means there is no link from the story pin off the platform.
So when, as we've talked about in the past, you watch a story and or you get to the end of the story and you end up, and usually the call to action then for the creator is what?
Usually it's follow me on Pinterest.
Got it. Okay, so Pinterest is leaning in then to followers, growing followers.
Yes, yes, they are. And I was telling you earlier, I did this little tiny baby survey or study rather. I got story pins on my own account. So I uploaded one and I followed all the rules. Like the first one is a panel and it has several panels. It has I don't think it's not an ingredients list, a materials list, right? So it has everything that they want you to have in there. So someone could potentially follow through. It was making a painting. And so I just posted it and I looked at my follower count in the 10 days before and leading up until that day I posted it, and then the 10 days afterwards. And my follower growth had quadrupled.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
what that means is you put up this story, Pinterest showed it to a bunch of people, and those people took the action of following you.
They did.
And
they
what
did.
is, then let's continue the connectors.
And so what, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got more followers, which means what?
Well, I have more followers who are interested in acrylic pour painting now. So next time I post something, maybe a video of my painting, another story, or just an image, maybe that leads back to my Instagram, they're going to be more likely to see that content. And because they've already expressed an interest in it, they're probably going to engage with that content as well, which is going to help that continue to spread across Pinterest. And I don't have a website for my painting, so I would just be leading it back to Instagram because that's usually where, if anyone wants to buy something, they'll DM me. So I would just lead them back to Instagram. But in effect, you're getting like downstream impact on your traffic because you're getting those more engaged followers to your account.
Got it.
Which, I mean, it's like Pinterest is that long game anyway, like Google, right? Like you make an investment now and it's going to pay off for a long time, but it might take a little while to start, right? And story pins are the same way. Like, okay, maybe it's not super satisfying that you're not getting immediate clicks to your website because of the story pin. But it's going to build down the line.
And we've always said this about about MiloTree, which is your Pinterest pop-up grows your Pinterest followers, but these are your most engaged followers because they're the ones who've been on your blog, your website,
exactly
seeing
right.
your content. Chances are they actually came from Pinterest to your blog. It
Yes,
says, follow
true.
me on Pinterest. You follow. And so we've always been saying the more followers, the more, first of all, if you get these followers from, say, your story pin or from MiloTree, these are those engaged followers that will kind of get that flywheel going.
Absolutely.
So there isn't a disconnect.
Nope. No. And I know it can be a hard sell when you don't get that immediate return, but that's marketing, right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes it takes a little while.
And you're right. Pinterest is the long game. You're playing the long game with Pinterest. Okay. So first of all, I just want to back up for a second. You said you used all of the right, you followed the rules in terms of making this story. What would you say those rules are again?
Okay, so use video early and often. So my opening scene and actually my second panel too are videos. With the first one, draw people in with a super engaging first panel. Do use more than one panel. I see a lot of one panel stories, and I think people are just kind of trying to hack it to get more distribution on that. But okay, I'll explain why you don't want to do that in a minute. Also, show how to do something start to finish, right? Because what you don't want to do is show them part of the story and then they can't click anywhere to go off and then they're frustrated, right? You have to show them the whole thing. And then in the last panel, encourage people to follow you. And a lot of this is opposite of what we usually would say on Pinterest, which is don't give them everything, give them a taste and make them click. Story pins, you've got to give them everything. But the point there is to get them to follow you. Now, something that has come up, let's see, mid-March, Pinterest came out with some news about story pins, and one of them was that there is now an engagement-based system for distribution. So what that implies is that there wasn't before, and basically any story pin could get a lot of distribution. But now they're looking at, are people clicking to see your story pin? Are they adding reactions? Are they advancing from panel to panel? Right? So have more than one panel, create that actual value, allow people to engage. We know they don't have a place to add a link. So what some people have done then is to add a link in their description and say like, copy and paste this link to visit. That can hurt your distribution because they're onto that.
Oh, interesting. What if I were to say, use like a bit.ly and put it in a panel? Can they read that and know that I'm doing that? Like a custom link?
I don't know. Like they didn't specify, but I think it's risky. I think I would probably test it though.
Okay.
But the point is like understanding what they want, working with the way they want it to work, then that would probably be a no, right? But you could try it. So they also said that sharing video directly from other sites, i.e. TikTok with watermark, could hurt your distribution. So when we did a study a few months back, we found that of the pins that went out in November and January of this past year, the ones that had, I'm getting my numbers mixed up. But anyway, we looked at several hundred pins that had over 5,000 repins on them. And about 30% of the ones that we analyzed were video pins. And a surprisingly large number of those were TikTok videos. So if we were to do that again, would we find different results? Would there be fewer TikTok videos? And there probably, but it's really easy to cover up that watermark. So you should probably still repurpose them, just take that extra step. And what we found too is that it wasn't just goofy TikToks. It wasn't just an image with like a bit of animation on it. It was actually a really helpful video that would show step-by-step how to do a workout or a hairstyle or something that people could actually use. So if you're wanting distribution, that's what I would recommend.
Interesting. Yes. In fact, it was on TikTok where I would see people saying, hey, if you want a way to get traffic, go put this TikTok up on Pinterest. And so it was like TikTok people were saying that all the time. Like,
wait a minute. So they were saying for you to download their TikTok and put it on Pinterest?
No. Your own. Like if I was following like marketers on TikTok, one of the tricks they had was take your videos, like let's say, you're doing cooking on TikTok, to make sure to put those on Pinterest.
Yeah. Yes, you absolutely should do that. But just like with Instagram now, you want to get rid of that watermark.
And there are ways to do that. So you can Google
There are apps, all kinds of apps you could do that.
Absolutely. But you don't necessarily want to share directly from TikTok to Pinterest.
Right. I mean, TikTok is like the easiest way in the world to edit video. So I totally get why you'd want to repurpose. I've done it myself.
I was just in a Facebook group and somebody posted, how do I grow my Pinterest followers? And somebody else said, use MiloTree. Yes, the MiloTree pop-up app will grow your best, most engaged Pinterest followers while you sleep. And remember, Pinterest followers matter because they signal to the algorithm. So head to MiloTree.com, sign up for your account, and remember, MiloTree will not slow your site down. Try it out for 30 days free. You've got nothing to lose, just Pinterest followers to gain. And now, back to the show. So let's talk about this. which is
Yes.
this idea of an original pin the first time it's
Uh-huh.
going live on the platform
Yeah.
versus taking that pin and pinning it into a bunch of boards.
Right. Okay. So we did another study recently, and let me see if I can. Okay. This was, we wanted to look at what percentage of the saves were going on for new pins, those fresh pins versus the repins or the saves. So what we found is that of all the engagement that happened, and I'm trying to remember what was the time period. I think it was February and March. Um, we found that, okay, let me get this right. 73% of the saves that were happening on that first time out pin. All right. Now this is different from last time I might have talked to you about this. It was a higher number. It was 70% and 30%. Now it's 73 and 27%. So it's not that there's no benefit to resharing, but there's less.
So you are getting the most bang for your buck that first time that
Yeah.
pin gets pinned to that first board.
Yep.
Like that's your
exactly
money, right?
Yeah,
That's what you want to be focusing on.
That is. And that is, again, why it's so super important to share your pin to the most relevant board, right? To give Pinterest the best chance that first time out to figure out what this pin is and how to distribute it.
And you do that through one, creating an engaging pin with a really strong heading on, like headline on the pin,
Yeah.
putting lots of keywords in the description, some
In the title.
hashtags in the
No
and
more
the title.
hashtags.
Oh, wait, what? No more hashtags.
No more
What happened?
They don't work, and they're not
Really?
recommended anymore. Yeah. So it's recommended just to use 1 or 2 sentences of keyword rich material in your description, not to keyword stuff, right? Just to write in a natural manner, and hashtags are out again.
Wow.
I know,
Okay.
back and forth,
Everything
right?
is always changing.
I know. And let me just clarify, because we had so many studies going, it's hard to remember which was which. So it was this month we looked at pins sent by Tailwind members January 1st to March 12th. And that's where we found, okay, 73% of those saves are happening from that first pin, and the other ones are 27%. So those repins are getting 27%.
Do you still then believe that you create, let's say, a blog post, and that you should create multiple pins for that blog post, but that each one speaks to a slightly different audience?
Oh, totally. Because when we found that original pins, like that first time out, accounted for 73% of the saves, we're talking about the image, right? We're not talking about a blog post or a product page. It's the image itself. So creating a brand new image starts you all over again. And if, like you were hinting at, you create a new image that speaks to a different audience, maybe uses different keywords, that can open you up to a whole new audience, which is really exciting. Yeah, because the other thing you don't want to do is to make 25 pins for the same blog post that have all the same text on them. Like that looks very spammy to Pinterest and to pinners. But what you do want to do is figure out, okay, in what other context, in what other season, in what other event or interest could this product or idea be applicable, and how can I kind of put a little spin on how I talk about it to reach those people in those moments.
Now, what about the idea that Pinterest was wanting new blog posts
Yeah.
and not so much going to your older content and making new pins?
Yeah, totally. Like that is the best thing that you can do, is to go out and make the most engaging, most interesting and inspiring new piece of content you could ever come up with. So we should still be doing that for sure, but you can still get mileage out of your still relevant content by making new images for them.
Let's say I have limited amounts of time.
Oh, really?
I know, shocker, isn't it?
Yes. And that's the thing with all these changes. Like we want more, we want fresher. Oh, now we want videos and stories.
Exactly. So let's say I'm a blogger. Let's say I'm a
Yep.
food blogger. And
Okay.
I'm wearing a lot of hats.
Yes.
If let's say I have a pie, what % of that pie would you spend creating?
Are you mixing metaphors?
Sorry, I think I am. Okay, let's say I've got like 100 units to use up, like $100.
Yeah.
How many dollars should I spend making pins, static pins? How about videos? How about stories? In order to, my first priority is to get traffic to my blog. And then my second priority is to grow my followers and grow my kind of reputation on Pinterest.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. You asked the hard questions. Okay. So first priority is traffic. So we're still gonna do a mix, right? But we do need to have things that have links on them. So we're gonna have to create some static images and also some video pins.
Now, video, though, you can put a link, explain the link on video pins.
Oh. Okay, can you say that again?
Okay, sorry,
Kinda broke up for a
explain
sec.
how the link works on video pins versus static pins.
Yeah, so you can still add a link to video pins, and we get quite a lot of traffic from our video pins. I know some people feel like it's kind of hard to find the link on video pins, but I don't have that problem that I've noticed. You can also like give people a hint that there is a link in your video, like the link's over there, the link's over there. But they do bring in quite a bit of traffic for us. So, okay, question. Of our 100 units, how many are we going to put towards video pins, static pins, story pins? Is the other option out there creating fresh content, like new content on your blog?
Yeah, let's put that in there. Yeah, let's make it harder. Go.
Okay. Okay. So I would say, and when we're saying creating that fresh content for a blog, is that including also creating pins for that, or does that need to come out of the other section?
Let's say that comes out of the other section.
Okay, that's easier. All right. So we're going to create new content. Let's spend 60% of our time on fresh content.
Ooh. I didn't expect you to say that. Okay.
Okay. And the reason for that is because you can use that all over the web, right? It's not just Pinterest. We have to think about our other marketing as well. All right. So 60% is there. Let's do 20% on video. Okay. Because we know it's going to get more distribution usually. So it's going to get more, and it can bring in traffic. So now we have 20% left. Oh boy, this is hard. I guess it's going to have to be 10 and 10.
Ooh.
Although I wish I had a little more for the image pins, but okay. And you're going to think I planned this, but I did not really. So that Tailwind Create, with that 10% of the time you have, I mean, honestly, I did not plan it this way, can get you an incredible number of great pins.
Ooh, so
right?
Talk to me about Tailwind Create.
Okay,
I know we didn't plan this, but I didn't mean, I was going to mention it.
Okay, so Tailwind Create is a really easy way to create social media images for your social media. So when we looked at how people were making them for Pinterest, people were spending an average of 1.8 minutes to make an image.
Wow.
In Tailwind Create for Pinterest. And that was compared to, like, in surveys and calls we did, people usually would take 15 minutes to make a pin. So that's about a 90% savings. And what I like to think about is, like, if we could make a Tailwind Create for house cleaning, it would take like 14 minutes to clean your house instead of 2 hours. So, like, if we could please come out with that would be amazing. But yeah, so I think that would be realistic, right? 60% of your time creating content, 20% on video, 10% on static images, which is totally doable with Tailwind Create.
Yep.
Yeah, and 10% on story pins.
Interesting. That makes sense. I mean,
let's not write this in stone because I just came up with this on the fly, but I think it would be something to start with.
Interesting. So should I, my old strategy was create a pin focus on, where I'm putting it in the first board, but really think I'm getting it all out there by repinning. But you are saying repinning becomes less important, but is still important.
Well, if you think about it, like when your daughter comes home with a 73 on her test, would you rather that she had 100?
I would. Yes.
Yeah, you
yes,
would, right?
Yes.
So if we're never resharing, it's probably too much of a like a causation to lean on that closely, but there is benefit still to resharing.
And that's where like a scheduler comes in, because
Yeah.
I would never want to be manually pinning those pins into different boards.
Right. And it even is really important with something like Tailwind Create, where you're like, okay, if I know that my pins tend to die off after a couple months, which we did notice that like what we call the half-life of a pin
right,
has become shorter, like in general. Like
interesting. Okay.
we probably all have those old pins that still do really, really great, but in general that half-life is closer to around 2 months now, where it used to be more like 4. So if we thought like, all right, every 2 months I'm going to look at my blog posts that are doing well on Pinterest, and I'm going to put a different spin on it. Like I'm going to look at Tailwind trend or Pinterest trends rather, and figure out what is going on now that I can kind of work into my pin for this content. And you're going to do like every 2 months. So you could do it now. You could look at Pinterest trends for what's going to be coming up in 2 months, and like create it, schedule it, and like thank yourself later.
Right.
A little gift to future you.
Right. And by the way, you can back into this in terms of the content you're creating. Is there like when I'm thinking about creating content, now I'm thinking about, can I dress this piece of content up in different ways?
Oh, yes.
So instead of like after I've made the content going, okay, now I need to kind of come up with a new spin for this content. Is there a way within the content to tackle how I could use, let's say, this craft for a variety of different holidays, and maybe write that in the post? Then I can pull that same post out for different holidays and it's relevant.
Well, and yeah, that's the other thing. Like if you're going to use existing content to talk to a new audience, you need to make sure that what you're talking about is actually in the pin, right? Which it's a good thing to do for Google too, like to go back and to update your content. But just make sure what you're promising on Pinterest is actually on there. Like for example, our Garden Cherry Bourbon Smash, which is the official pin of Tailwind Create, it seems. Thinking about, okay, we can market it as just the cocktail and it's beautiful and people love it, or we could also share it on Pinterest as 2021's signature wedding cocktail, right? But you need to make sure that when people get to that blog post, that it mentions something about how it would be a great wedding cocktail. Right. Otherwise, there's a total disconnect. But to kind of make it easier to brainstorm those ideas, because it's like, all right, you have a formula. You take your product or your idea, you add your context or your interest or your trend or your season, you come up with a new way to talk about it. That can be overwhelming. So I did put together a little PDF, which is not gated, and it's just at bit.ly/Pinterest-formula, where Pinterest and formula are capitalized. You can grab that. It has all kinds of lists of things you could work with.
Oh, that's great. And I will definitely put that in the show notes.
Oh, thank you.
If I were to make you all knowing, like, what do you see changing? What are you kind of noticing in terms of what Pinterest is communicating to you guys or communicating to the world? As a creator, how do I stay prepared? Like, what do I need to be thinking about?
Yeah. I mean, they have not been shy about saying what they want and kind of where they're moving. So maybe in the show notes too, we could share that Creator Festival video where, they talk about the new direction of Pinterest. And then there's a video on their YouTube channel. Well, there are a bunch of them really, where it's like, we have we have 4 million searches for this search term, but we don't need any more banana bread recipes. Like, it's very clear that they're looking for new and novel, and they're also looking for more ways to get people to create content and engage with content on their platform. So I I don't know about you, but I don't see a world where Pinterest is no longer a search and discovery engine. Like, I that's kind of like it's kind of how we use it. I mean, who knows? It could change and become a social platform. Don't know. But that's what it's built on, is this search and discovery. So I think there's always going to be a place for that. And Pinterest will always need creators, even though, yes, they're a public company and they need to make money and there are going to be ads, but they can't be all ads, right? And they can't be all stories. So there's going to be a place for a lot of this out here. But I feel like when they come out with something new and they're giving preference to it, as they are with story pins, then I think we should at least try these things and see how it impacts our overall marketing success. Because when something starts doing better, something else is probably not going to do as well. So it does pay to kind of go with their vision of the platform.
I think that is smart, to be thinking that way, and to be thinking that Pinterest is seeing itself in a broader context than how we initially all saw Pinterest. Now, are people's traffic from Pinterest, is it going down across the board, or are you seeing some accounts where their traffic is going up and others where their traffic is going down? What kind of trends are you seeing when it comes to traffic from Pinterest?
Well, I think a lot of people are saying that they're getting less traffic, but they're also saying things like, I don't understand why I'm not getting the traffic I used to. I'm doing the same things I've always done. And it's like, well, you kind of answered yourself
right there.
right? Because things change. Platforms always are going to change on us. So we have to kind of keep up with what the platform wants in order to get the results that we want. And then everybody is happy. It's definitely not everyone. There are always going to be people who talk about frustration, and I get it. Like, yeah, wanting more story pins, more video pins, it's harder. Not getting the success you used to by just sharing over and over again, it's harder. Yeah, it absolutely is. But the potential is still out there, especially with the Pinterest audience growing so much, and with Gen Z growing by 40% in the past year. I mean, just new opportunities opening up for people. But doing the same thing you've always done is not going to do it.
Okay, one last question. Do schedulers hurt your success?
Oh, I love this question. So this question comes up on every network, and the only one that I know for sure is that on Pinterest it does not matter. So we went to our partner team at Pinterest and asked them, and they're like, no, because they've told us this a bunch of times. It doesn't matter. We treat things the same way. But still, we were hearing this from Tailwind members, and we're like, okay, but we want to see for ourselves. So we have run some tests. And what we have found is that Tailwind does not hurt your scheduling. So we looked at when people would pin via Pinterest or via Tailwind, and we saw no difference in the saves on those. And again, we're looking at saves. Impressions is kind of a funny number. If you look at your own on-pin impressions, you might see it go up and down. But when we looked at, okay, that first time your pin goes out, whether it's on Tailwind or via Pinterest, we did not see an difference in engagement. So if you're not getting distribution, you're not getting engagement. But when we looked at that second time you send out your pin, third time, whatever, so saves published via Tailwind or Pinterest, we actually saw slightly higher performance when they went out via Tailwind.
Interesting.
Like, I don't know why, but we looked at that for July through January of 2021. Also, we looked at January 2021 alone in case something had changed, because we were really like, what is going on? We wanted to know, is Tailwind hurting? The answer is no. Now, if people like I'm an exception. I know it's hurting me. They can email us, help@tailwindapp.com, and we have a way we can look at exactly what they're sharing on Pinterest versus via Tailwind, and we can see the saves they're getting on each and compare and like help them figure out like where they're getting the activity and what's going on.
Oh, that is terrific. Well, Alisa, I have to thank you again for coming on the show, sharing what is new on Pinterest. Things are always changing. I did not know hashtags were no more.
Oh my goodness, it's hard to keep up.
Having been on Pinterest for as long as I have, I've seen them come and go and come and go. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. You are truly one of my all-time favorite guests. I hope you will come back on the show in a couple more months.
It's always so fun
to share. And I love you. So really, thank you.
Love you too.
You can see why I love having Alisa on the show. She is just a breath of fresh air. I feel like now we all know what direction to lean into with Pinterest stories and video, and still making new original static pins, but with lots of intention. So please, just a reminder to hopefully do me that solid and then go start using that term and see if your teen children cringe. But really, if you are getting value out of the podcast, please head to iTunes, give it 5 stars, leave a short review so other people can discover it as well. And if you leave a review, I'm going to read it in the intro of my next episode. And I will see you here again next week.